All right. Good evening, everybody. One second so I can share my screen. Okay. All right. Uh, the learning theory that I'm going to be talking about is John Crumbolt's learning theory of career counseling. So I found this theory pretty interesting. I've never actually had the opportunity to learn about it. Career counseling in general has been pretty new, so it has been interesting to, dive into a theory and learn some more about it. So I'm going to take throughout this presentation, I'm going to go through what it is, the different components. I have a case study that's involved in it. I also want to look into a couple of peer-reviewed articles, and then I'm gonna pose some questions that y'all can answer and get back to me. So let's dive in. Nope, this. All right, we'll get the hang of Zoom eventually. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so Crumbolt's described that this theory has two distinct parts. All right, so it all encompasses the learning theory of career counseling, but within that theory, there's different parts. The first part of this theory focuses on why people may choose to go into a certain career, and this is called social learning theory of career decision making. So you'll see me abbreviate, or you'll see it abbreviated in many places as SLTCDM. So that's one distinct part, is why they choose to go into a certain career. The second half is what the title of it is called, and it is learning theory of career counseling. Now, this involves the actual interventions that a counselor can use to help their client. It helps, you know, kind of lay the foundation of what paths to take, what a counselor can do to help the client determine where to go next. What kind of career do I want to go into? And what am I, different things, but we'll talk about that in a few. So within social learning theory of career decision making, as I said before, it is, you know, maybe why somebody chooses to go into a theory. So these four factors were laid out as what it involves. So genetic endowment and special abilities. So you may have guessed, but certain special abilities, things we're good at. So special unique talents. Genetic endowment is more of things you cannot, you're born with, race, age, uh, things like that, things that you can't change, And so an example of this would be maybe you're born musically gifted. You've got a talent for that type of thing. So two, environmental conditions and events. This is kind of what it sounds like. The life experiences, the culture you're born into, the type of environment raised in, uh, you know, siblings, brothers, things like that. So instrumental and associative learning experiences. These are important because, it could be, so associative learning. experiences. These are life experiences, uh, how you may have been praised for doing something good and you like the feeling. And so it piques your interest into exploring that further. Now, on the flip side of that coin, you could you could have maybe enjoyed doing playing sports, but your parents didn't want you to play sports, so they bashed you for it. They made rude comments, things like that. Also, in that category, the third one there, you could have witnessed a family member or family friend, somebody you really admire, be praised for different, doing something, and that could lead you down a career decision because somebody you respected, you loved, they saw it as a good thing. So then it kind of imprinted on you that that's a likable, a noble job, whatever. So then task approach skills. This goes into, it could be things such as time management, whether you're organized, you know, self-motivated, driven, all those kind of words that you hear. That would go into task approach skills. Now, so do they align? Does your task approach skills align with what the career you're looking into, what is required to fulfill that career, the job? So again, social learning theory of career decision making is part one, and this suggests that career decisions are a complex process that includes interactions between many factors, including genetic predispositions, educational, social, family, and cultural factors. And again, I just want to emphasize that this part of the theory suggests of why you may choose a certain career path. Okay, and so continuing the first four, we went over. This learning theory suggests that the following factors contribute to personal beliefs about oneself: self-observation generalizations. Those are things you see about yourself that you generalize about yourself. So say I think I'm a honest person, then I might be a judge. Okay. So worldview generalizations. So how one sees the world, like the world as counselors, I think we can all relate to, we see people as being ultimately good at their core. So that, kind of goes hand in hand with counseling. Task approach skills. I already went over that. Nothing changed in that one. And then actions. So how do you view your actions? What kind of actions do you take? And these all contribute to personal beliefs about yourself. Do you see the actions as good? It kind of goes a little bit with the self observation. And then the second part of that theory, learning theory of career counseling. It was developed to address three main concerns: the absence of a goal, an expressed concern about high aspirations or unrealism, basically unrealistic, you know, aspirations. And then three, a conflict between equally appropriate alternatives or multi-potentiality. So basically picking a path, you've got options, help to weed out which one's most appropriate for you. That's why this theory was created. So this part of Crumbull's theory is where counselors implement interventions and explains what counselors can do to help their client. So case study. Consider Michael, a college freshman who has a lot of friends and has a healthy social life with peers and friends, but is unsure of what career path he would like to take. Sounds pretty standard. He has been interested in a career as a counselor, but feels unsure if that is the path he would like to take. Both of his parents are accountants, so he is also thinking of following their footsteps. He has been enjoying his Psychology 101 course and has a high A letter grade. His professor praises him during the class for his input and ability to insert his thoughts into class discussions, which encourage him. He reports feeling more satisfied while being able to communicate with others and views being an accountant as a lonely profession where he is just crunching numbers all day. Michael also views the counseling profession as being fulfilling and holds respect for those that chose that career path. His grandparents think it is a noble profession. So let's dive into this. So applying some of the concepts and tenets about from learning theory and which remember encompasses those two parts. So Michael's socially gifted. In the case study, he enjoys interacting with others. He also sees that counting is a lonely job, what he said. So he enjoys interacting with others. He's interested in the material, which was, demonstrated that he has a high A letter grade. He is enjoying the class material. Proficient intellect, this also goes in that area. What we do know is that he has an A in that class, so he has a good enough, at least, base of knowledge to continue into that field. He has been being praised by his professor for his class input and his excellence. Now, it's almost like, he's being rewarded and praised for how well he's doing in this class. So it's feeding into how much he enjoys the class, the material, which can lead to keep going in that direction of being a counselor. So as far at this point, he views counseling as positive. He views accounting as following in the footsteps, not really fulfilling a lonely job, which kind of there's a little conflict between what he enjoys and sees for himself and him choosing accounting as a profession. So people will prefer an occupation if they have succeeded at similar tasks performed by practitioners at occupation, which, he's doing well in the class. So that's a start. Or two, a valued friend or relative praises its advantages or if they observe positive words and images being associated with it. So, his grandparents view it as a noble profession. He views it as a noble profession. So, that that has sparked some of his interest, especially from his grandparents. Now, how close they are, we don't know, but we will find out in sessions with them. So that there's a positive association already going there, and he also views again accounting as a lonely profession and not something that is noble. So some of the interventions with Michael, the case study, there's a tool assessment tool called the Career Beliefs Inventory. Now, this inventory helps counselors to identify issues with client beliefs, such as indecision, unrealistic thoughts, and others. Wouldn't be an issue with Mike. The indecision would be the focus with Michael. Weeding out what he wants to do, making that final decision, working through those issues, the if ands or buts. One of the interventions I would use with Michael would be to clarify goals. Clarification of goals is an intervention, an area to dial in on. Investigate what he is wanting to gain out of his future profession. What's going to be the most fulfilling? What's going to allow him to live the life that he envisions for himself? Education is a big thing. Psychoeducation on what jobs entail, the ins and outs. There's even job shadowing. So that's something. You could get them to set up with local businesses, whatever, to shadow a job. Biggest issue that presents with Michael's case to me is his indecision at the current point, which I think would be addressed during clarifying his goals and then moving from that point. That would be the point where I would want to start. So into some peer-reviewed articles. I wanted to go a little different route with this part. There's with John Crumboltz, who's the father of this theory or whatever. He also had a big part that was not included in the textbook, so I figured I'd include it here. And it is called planned happenstance, which falls under the umbrella of his learning theory. So I wanted to bring it up because I didn't see it in the textbook, but I wanted to bring it up because it was all over Google Scholar. And so I'm going to touch on that in these peer-reviewed articles just so to give everyone in the class a little you know, introduction into that, you know, planned happenstance. So based on the research is more important than in the past to engage in career behaviors that are proactive and purposeful to increase chances of encountering career opportunities. Now, with this in this theory, like the it it's set apart because there's an emphasis put on taking advantage of chances, what it will call serendipitous. I hope I'm saying that word right. Chances. Kind of you create your own luck type deal. Crumbles argues that career counselors should not view change and transition of careers as a negative, but a positive and welcome outcome. So part of this theory again is, you know, moving through changes, and that's this article was right after the Great Recession, you know, and it was to help, you know, the job market change. There was a lot of change in the economy, the country, all that. I just touched on the third one. Crumbles theory has pragmatic focus on action. It has empirical support that demonstrates its usefulness. You know, the numbers are somewhat there. It's a little undecided. You know, in the textbook, it said that it needs more research. Online, it said that it is, there's studies that show its effectiveness, but there needs to be more done, is basically what I gathered from that article. And then article number two, you know, staying in that planned happenstance realm, university students' perceptions of unplanned events as a factor in the process of career choice. So happenstance theory, now keep in mind this theory it falls under the umbrella of the learning theory of career counseling. And what you can see here on this little diagram, the number of individuals that took place in this survey study, it was what how often do you find that chance interactions played a part? How big of a role did they play a part in your employment history and the career you chose? So as you can see here, the three common, so we got individual, political, legal, and social as three common dimensions. All right, that came up a lot. So and going over, I hope y'all can see my mouse on the individual, you know, irrational career decision, personal experiences, professional experiences, knowing oneself, political and legal, education opportunities, legal changes, test system, social, urban characteristic, demographics and family characteristic, immediate environment, effect of colleagues. So the outskirts of the diagram are situations that happen which created chance events that led to employment and career choices. So that's why it's all going from the outskirts moving into unplanned events. Those just happen to be the unplanned events that, and the numbers, you know, in the article, it was over 60% of people who took place in it. Over 60% of the people said these played a major role. So I think it just goes to show, like with John Crumbles tying it all together, that uh, you know, dealing with the changes, dealing with chance, taking action, these are all part of this theory. And some questions I, you know, asked the class to consider, maybe, you know, if we do a discussion board, how big of a role has chance encounters played a part in your employment so far? I know for me, I can relate big time to chance encounters. And two, how much do environmental factors influence the career path that one chooses? Because I think that would be an interesting question. That's why I added it on there. All right. And here are my references. And that's what I got for career learning theory, John Crumbles.